Andrew Olson, ladies and gentlemen. So our new
Hello.
associate at Conscious Wealth. I wanted to introduce you to him. And last week, JP and I did a video on the markets cratering.
Yeah.
I would love to do that again this week, but as you know, they recovered in 5 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we went from the beginning of the week, job numbers were bad, Japan was collapsing, markets going to hell in a handbasket.
Right.
To Friday, the S&P recovered up to.
It's all priced in now, and everything. It's all back to normal.
It's all back to good. So then what? So I thought, well, what are we going to talk about? So I wanted to just introduce you to our clients and to anyone else who's listening. And I thought I would introduce you with some of the same ideas that JP and I spoke about. We did a video about the markets and Zen Buddhism, very lighthearted about the Zen Buddhism. We didn't really go into all the detail. We do want to invite one of our clients who is really well versed and knowledgeable and wise in that space to talk in more depth. But I did want to take some of those ideas and ask you in relationship to your studies. So one of the things JP and I talked about was that kind of the going into everything with an amateur mindset. Or in Socrates said, I know only one thing, that I know nothing.
Yeah.
And I want to know how that relates to you, your experience as a professional musician as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe just tell people a little background about your professional
music
career.
So background is I went to KSU, not with JP, but I met JP through KSU. And before I was a finance major, I was a music major. I was a music performance major at Kennesaw, and Kennesaw was really connected with the Atlanta Symphony. And I was like, that's where I want to go. I love the ASO. Always have. And so, it's an absolute dream to get to study under Mike Tishon, who's now principal trumpet at the Atlanta Symphony. And so went to KSU, and I was a junior in music before I decided that I needed the switch. Everything happened in COVID. I was applying to grad schools. I was auditioning at Juilliard and New England Conservatory and Manhattan Institute of Music and all these crazy places, and getting on the plane all the time. And then COVID happened and everything just completely shut down.
Yeah. And
I was probably playing 5-6 gigs a week, and then all of a sudden it was nothing for like 6 months.
Yeah.
It didn't play anything other than in my bedroom, And so it was like, I think that what you guys were talking about last week with Zen Buddhism and the humbled kind of approach to things is super relatable to music, because if there's one thing, if you've ever done anything, regardless of whether it's music or sports or anything, one thing that is some 9-year-old can do it way better than you can. And, it's super discouraging, because you're like, I'm giving my everything to this and I'm doing all these things. And it's like, some 9-year-old in Beijing is like doing it at a way higher level than you. And you're like, what am I doing? And that is totally the case with sports, chess, music, probably investments if they have access to the computer at that, it's everything, so that is just that's just the nature of it. And like that mindset of humility is super important, I think, in music.
Yeah. What about the expression we talked about, the idea, and this is really relatable to, Lao Tzu first said it, those who say don't know, those who know don't say. How did that relate to music? I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there like, I don't know. I guess there's just probably a lot of people bragging out there.
There's an air to somebody, who really, you can tell at a distance, is an incredible musician. I remember I would go to auditions occasionally that would be, with some of the best players in the country that are in their peak of their career, their mid 30s, early 40s, and they're like, really, that's when you peak on an instrument, truly. Because your maturity in playing catches up to your maturity, as a person, as an adult, and everything meshes. And you would, see people, who were undergraduates, with me, and they were, practicing, some of the craziest excerpts, the most intense things that could ever be called on the list. And then, the really, really great musician is playing the piece that nobody's even practiced, because you just look at it and you're like, oh, that's easy. It's slow, it's lyrical, it's super easy. But that's those marginal pieces that don't seem to really matter. That's where all the difference is made. And they would be, show their super high quality of musicianship, not on the crazy fancy stuff, because it's expected that you're going to have to do that, but on the super mundane details. And if that doesn't translate to investments, then nothing does, because somebody's going to come at you with a crazy strategy we're going to, there's some kind of, triple leveraged hedge strategy on this product and then this thing and this thing. And then reality, when you look at it at the long term, it's like you can really tell who's really honing in on the mundane and the everyday. And like, it's not fun to sit and listen to an earnings call from a, Acqui 1000 company, but like sometimes it's necessary,
Yeah. And so everybody doesn't think we just plucked you from the ASO.
Yeah.
You did, you did major in business afterwards, and then what was your? Tell me more about your major, and then just your work as an analyst.
Yeah.
In general about the work as an
analyst. So I came from music, and naturally I was super involved. I was doing a ton of things every single week. It was jazz band and quintet and this thing and that thing, and my week was full. And then I switched to being a business major, finance major, and everything stopped. And there was just my classes.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, if you know me, I'm extremely busybody. And like I have to be doing something at all times. And so I was like, well, there's got to be something here. And so I scoured the school for like all the extracurriculars and stuff. And I found student managed investment fund. And I was like, wow, this is hard. It seems like it's going to take up an insane amount of my time. And so I was like, naturally, that's the perfect place for me. Like I want to be there. And that's where I met JP, and that's where I met a ton of awesome people. And it was almost like having a job in a registered investment advisor while you were in college. It was very cool. We were running our own portfolio, and we had like $350,000 under management. And yeah, it was a really great experience, and met a ton of cool people, and really honed in on skills you don't learn in the classroom. And then after, so I went through, I graduated, I worked at an institutional investment consultant firm. So more of a like, it's not banking or corporate, but it's somewhere in between. And, it's a ton of great experience. And so worked in institutional investment consulting for just under a year. And then, talked to JP. It's like, this is not like, this is brass tacks. This is not like vision or like, this is not fulfilling towards my life. I mean, it's good work, but it's not fulfilling towards my life.
Well, it was devoid of people.
Yeah,
numbers
exactly.
And books, and it's a difficult part of an analyst. Yeah,
for sure. And the clients were very far out of reach and very above my, very above my level of experience on these hundreds of billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was like, I need a purpose. I need people. I love people. I live for people, and I'm very sentimental. And so I as you'd expect as a musician, but like, so I was like, I need people, I need contact, I need people, my bosses and my coworkers. I want to see them every day and things like that. So
we don't do remote. Like sometimes I work remote, that's true. But like when we fill the office, Clay's here. We'll introduce everyone to Clay later. JP's here, you're here. I had a music epiphany this weekend.
Oh yeah? Tell me about it.
So I was driving in my car, which is like a BMW Z3 on a really windy road. And I just, for some reason, I said Spotify or Siri, play Layla on Spotify. So the Eric Clapton song.
Yeah.
And if you know that song, you know it's divided into two parts.
Yeah.
The first part is he's begging Layla to be his lover, who is, of course, like married to George Harrison at the time.
Yeah.
And then it's very like fast and quick, like da 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 da. And then the second half is very lyrical.
Yeah.
It's very smooth. And I realized for me, the second half of that song, and like I always remember the second half of that song because it was also in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
It was in Goodfellas when they're opening up the trunk and everybody's like dead and stuff. But I realized to me, the second half of that song is when you get everything you wanted. Like you have this dream. You wanted this woman, you got her, and the song isn't sad at that point, but it's really kind of nostalgic and low, like it's a low beat, and you're like, oh, like maybe it wasn't everything you'd hoped for.
Yeah.
And it also reminded me of the end of The Graduate. I don't know if you've seen that, where
I haven't seen The Graduate.
Dustin Hoffman runs into the church, he's banging on the windows, Elaine, and he grabs her out, and they run out of the church with like the cross as a form of protection, and they get in a bus, and then they're just kind of looking at each other, and there's just like this lull.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're done. We got it. It's
great, but it's like, oh, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Like,
Not to go on a tangent that's too far out here, but there's a guy that I really love to listen to called Andrew Huberman, and he's a neuropsychologist, neuroscientist.
Of course.
And he does, a lot of studies about dopamine.
Yeah.
And one of the things, they measured dopamine in children when they were expecting they were going to get ice cream. And one of the things you noticed was it wasn't the dopamine peak wasn't when they got the ice cream and were eating it. it was right before they took the first lick. That's
Yeah.
when everything peaked. And so it's an interesting kind of thought, experiment to be like, it's almost the journey and the anticipation that creates all the satisfaction and joy. And then when you get it, it's, oh, okay.
I was curious
We're
if that
here.
happened in your music career at all.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, I had never practiced anything except for music my entire life. I mean, like truly my entire life. Like,
That was your goal. I'm going to be a musician.
yeah. Like unimpressive student, like, teachers always are like, you could be so good at that. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like I've got the thing that I'm good at. Like, I don't need you to tell, like totally arrogant. And like, I only practiced the one thing and I was like, I'm really good at this one thing.
Yeah.
And so I'd never practiced anything else. And I didn't realize until I got out of music that I could be good at other things. And like, I actually enjoy the process of learning things more than the actual, just because it was trumpet, but I had only ever known, the trumpet. So that definitely happened with me. I went to Aspen Music Festival. I got accepted to Aspen Music Festival, got canceled because of COVID. And that was the peak for me. That was like all I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Aspen because every great player that I'd known, that was like their stepping stone, was like Aspen Music Festival. I made it. Every other kid was from a conservatory. I was from a state school. And like, I was so excited. And when I made it, I couldn't believe how unimpressed I was with the feeling of, and it may have been different if I had gone there, but I've done some cool stuff and I don't think it would have been, because the journey of getting there is almost twice as thrilling as the actual, oh, we're here. And now it's just, we do the daily tasks and stuff. But the journey there was just incredible. And so, yeah, I really did feel like that peak happened. And then I got there and I was like, do I really want to do this for the next 40 years?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how it went for sure.
That's another Lao Tzu quote, actually.
Yeah.
What is it? There's no way to happiness. Happiness is the way.
Yeah.
That's
great.
He's the earliest recording of somebody saying that.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm sure there were people before him saying
Yeah.
that too. But yeah. Well, welcome aboard. We're
Yeah.
happy to have you. You'll be calling clients if you hear Andrew Olson, ladies and gentlemen.
That's me.
A great addition to the team. Cue the Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah, we'll switch it in there.
Is it going to be a trademark?
It's got to be less than 5 seconds, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me.